Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to our Q3 Partner All Hands call for 2025. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to join eOne. We have a lot of great topics we're going to cover today, but before we even get started, I just want to say thank you for everything you're doing with eOne. We really value your partnership, your commitment, and our goal is to help you sell and support your growth as you tackle different types of data connectivity and integration projects. What we're going to cover today, we're going to be talking about some of the things we are working on from a product development standpoint. We have some announcements right away, and then we're going to show you a preview of a few things. After we cover the AI, some of our AI investments and what we're working on, we will then move into some of the use cases that some of our partners have been tackling lately with their eOne partnership. So there's a lot of great use cases between Popdock and SmartConnect and some really common problems that lots of your customers are likely facing. So we wanted to bring some of those stories to the surface. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some of the events coming up and opportunities for you to connect with eOne and to get up to speed on various topics and where you can learn more in the next couple months. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Just a few announcements here right away. I want to introduce you to a couple new team members that you will get to know in the coming months. We've seen quite a bit of growth with what we're doing, and with the growth of our team, we talked about that in Q2, a recent acquisition of Data Blend. We also have grown our team. So Heather Ladwig has joined our accounting team. You maybe have already communicated with Heather, but she's doing a really good job taking care of a number of accounting tasks with our team, as well as working with customers who have questions about renewals and working with different quotes, invoices, types of scenarios for sales order processing. I also wanted to introduce you to Mackenzie. Mackenzie has joined our marketing team, and you'll meet Mackenzie in the coming months. She is really working with us to optimize our content, and that's really across content that helps support you to market to your customers, to sell, and then also across our customer service and help desk assets. So really excited for them to be joining our team, but they're really on your team, and we're looking forward to support you. Another announcement we wanted to share real briefly before we get into the product topics is a new update that's available on our site. Some of you may have already used Popdock with Dynamics 365 Business Central. We have an extension that lets you embed Popdock right inside Business Central, and it also adds some other powerful features. And so we're excited to share that the Popdock extension is now available for D365 Business Central on-premise. It works really well online. It's been available on AppSource. And we came across a couple issues earlier this year that we've been working really closely with Microsoft on. So now, with the Popdock extension for Dynamics 365 Business Central on-premise, you can use Popdock right inside of Business Central, like you would with Business Central Online. You can also use the features to publish widgets inside of Business Central. So it's like a no-code click-through embed to a fast tab or a fact box. You can create and publish optimized queries, and there's no charge from Microsoft to do this. So that's a really powerful set of features there, and it's available for your on-premise customers who are using Business Central. So, all right, those were the announcements before we get into some of the product focus. And before we even show you a few things, Martin wants to cover and just speak to some of the things that we see going on with AI and really why eOne is making some of the investments we are. So, Martin, I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, Martin, we cannot hear you.
Well, that's because I was muted, Katie.
Okay.
Here we go. Hey, great to see everybody. And I want to share a little bit of my excitement around AI. I openly admit about 3 months ago, I was somewhat an AI skeptic, and we hadn't really got our heads around AI, but we've spent the last 4 months digging really deep and realized there's a perfect storm building within AI that requires the exact things that eOne's been working on for the last 20 years, and that is access to quality data, and then the ability to take action on that data through data integration. So both of those things coming together inside AI is a perfect scenario for us, and the more we've dug into it, the more excited I've got about software. So what I want to talk to you today about is where we fit, where eOne fits, and to help bring you on a little bit of the journey that I've been on for the last 4 months as we go through where AI applies, how it applies to business data, and what we can do with it. So let me share my screen here. If you make me present it, Katie. You should all be able to see my chat GPT. Now, I imagine everybody on this call has seen or used chat GPT or Claude or some other LLM to ask questions. Now, the normal business case would be something like this, and I'm going to paste in here, and this is a fake one, but a similar question to what I asked a few weeks ago, which is, hey, chat GPT, can you calculate the net leverage ratio based upon some data for me? And when I say go and do it, it runs off and it does a net leverage ratio calculation, which is kind of cool. Would have taken me a lot of time to go and look that up, find it, pull the numbers in, do it in a spreadsheet. Really cool. Now, where the power of AI really kicks in, yeah, I could have done that. It would have taken me 15 minutes instead of 3, but I could have done it. But then I get to say, how does this ratio, or better, yeah, how does this ratio fit for a software company? And it's going to then run off, and it knows things like industry standards. So it gives me, hey, depending on where you're at in your journey, this is how it's calculated. This is what a PE firm's going to like. This is what a bank's going to like. Anybody that's lent you money. So it's going to do all that. So that's the beauty of AI, is it's read every book about finance. It's read every book about how to calculate things. It's understanding the data, and that's the wonders of AI. If I then say in here though, please tell me which customers sold the most SmartConnect, and ask it that question. Understandably, it says, wait, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't read any books about your business. There is no publicly available data about your business because it can't connect to my ERP. It doesn't have, well, in our case, GP, it doesn't know how to connect. So it's saying, hey, you're going to have to do a lot of work. And this is where I think eOne is going to kick in and help solve this problem. Because you need to provide secure access to this data. Now, you also don't want to provide it with all of your data. There's no way you want to expose your ERP in its entirety to an AI tool, because it's going to use that data, learn from that data. It's not a secure workspace in here. Now, if I ask it, ChatGPT is going to say it doesn't steal my data, it doesn't take it out of this environment, but it is not a secure place to put all that data. So when I go and ask it, and I've been playing with this for you to ask ChatGPT the most secure way to share data with you, and a lot of the answer it comes up with is the concept of MCP, or Model Context Protocol. Now let's not get hung up on that. That's like an ODBC to your data that says, hey, let's give data to ChatGPT so it can do some work. So I'll pop down to one I've clicked on earlier, and I asked it, hey, when I'm connecting, what's the best practice for getting access to the data? And the first line it says here is really important. I think this is where eOne really kicks in, is limit the scope. Only provide AI with data that it needs. So don't expose it to lots of data. Limit and control the data you give access to. So just like you would control the data you give to an employee, somebody, in our case, Katie just talked about Heather. So we go through a security process to say Heather gets access to certain data related to finances and accounting, but she doesn't get access to other data, and we limit that. So it's the same with any AI project. So for each AI project, whether that's ChatGPT here, whether that's a chatbot for your support team, whether that's a customer portal where you're giving them access to data, you limit the scope of what people can see. And then absolutely access control. And it gives me a whole bunch of things here, because what we're doing is using APIs to connect in the background. So where eOne fits in, and I'm going to go back to those PowerPoint slides, Katie, so I might let you take back over. Have you got that, Katie?
I got that. 1 second here.
Pull that PowerPoint up. And so this is where eOne is going to fit in. And I'll hand to Chris shortly, and Chris will step you through some use cases. Turn this camera off and I'll go back to the PowerPoints. And this is where eOne fits in. So the concept of MCP is great. And it will connect you to lots of different systems, and all of the apps on the left are starting to build their own MCP servers. That gets extremely complicated if you end up with 10 or 15 different connections. So what we've done for you is wrap Popdock in its own MCP server, so that any AI platform, chat, whatever project you're working on, can make one call to the Popdock MCP and ask any question you like. Now, the hardest thing about providing data to AI is interpreting that data or telling the AI about your business. Exposing a database is kind of useless, because then you're letting AI make decisions. You're letting it filter through loads and loads of data, and it comes up with nonsense answers. So again, you've got to be really prescribed about which pieces of data you expose. So for each of the applications you use on the left, that might be GP, it might be Business Central, you might also use Salesforce, you might use Dynamics CRM, you might use Concur, or you might use Gorilla Expense. You might have an own internal database, you might use Shopify. The power of AI is really only good if AI is understanding all of those things and understanding your business. And this is the layer that eOne's providing, is we interpret your business, give it clear natural language definitions, so that when you ask a question of it, it knows and understands how to get the answer, where to get the answer. So a question coming into Popdock from one of these chat platforms or to the MC will say, hey, I know that the question you ask is about tickets. We need to go to Zendesk. We know that the question you asked is about professional services billing. We know we've got to go to GP. We know that that was a question about our e-commerce engine. We need to go to WooCommerce. So Popdock is providing the information for the AI platform to go and collect the right data in a really controlled manner, and only the fields that they need. Let's jump to the next slide there, Katie. So here we're back inside Popdock, which is the tool you all know, which is connecting to data from any data source. It's a query engine that lets us really pull together all the data. Now, if you look at this one here, and I know it's a little small, you'll notice when I go and pull up a list, and this is a sales table, a sales connection inside Popdock, you'll notice here that it's got the word amount like on every field. There's like 25 different fields here that have the amount in it. Now, when you're talking AI, you don't want to let AI guess which amount you're talking about. What is the amount of? AI is going to make a punt. It's going to make a guess unless you've told it about your business and what this data means in these fields. So just exposing tables and ERP data doesn't achieve you anything other than it will get you a mixed up soup of answers every time you ask a given question, unless you're able to define really clearly what data you are providing to the AI here. And that comes back to, as I said at the beginning, limiting the scope. Let's jump to the next one. You'll notice in here, I've got a screen. This is a Popdock screen called MCP prompt settings. Now, this is what I said. I'm telling the MCP servers about what data I'm able to provide. So in this case, I've got a Popdock list or a Popdock query that pulls specifically professional services sales numbers. So I've limited the scope. I didn't say, here's the sales order processing tables, have at it, have a look at every piece of information. But if I want to provide this to my project managers, I want to provide this to my professional services team, my consultants, and my professional services leader, I'm going to give a specific list of data that limits it just to the data I want. And now my natural language description is that this is a list of professional services sales. We bill by the hour. So if you take the total extended quantity and divide by the thing, you'll get the hourly rate. And note that training is handled differently because ChatGPT doesn't know anything about how I do business at eOne. And so this is me telling ChatGPT how we do business, what the data means. So when our professional services manager, Mark Anderson, many of you know him, asks a question in ChatGPT and says, hey, how many hours have we got per consultant in this scenario? It knows to go off and look at the right data and pull the right data back. And you get to do this in Popdock at every single level of the data you're providing. And if you don't, and if you, the better the description here, and I could write a much better one than this one, the better the description, the better results AI can have. So Mark could run this and pull up utilization records, and then he can use ChatGPT to say, hey, how does this compare to industry standards? What are the things that people do to make this better because we seem to be below? And that's, again, connecting the power of these activities. Let's go to the next slide. This is another example, but this is a more complex one and a predefined prompt. Now I'm building this inside Popdock, but this will then display as a tool, and the concept of tools is important. A tool is a thing that you can do inside your AI, and this one's going through MCP, but to build a report. That's a predefined report that I might want to run every day. So it's just going to be a link that I can run. And you can notice here we've given really specific instructions on how to do a Zendesk ticket analysis. So the English language structure, the natural language structure here is what's interpreted, and then AI can do amazing things with that. We often call AI a really fast working intern. It knows, it will do anything you ask and it will do it with a great deal of passion. But if you don't give it really clear instructions, it will make mistakes. It will make things up. It will guess because it doesn't know, just like an intern doesn't know how your business runs or businesses in general. And it comes up with that information. So I mentioned earlier, let's go to the last slide. The perfect storm of AI is that you need to connect to data, something that Popdock does extraordinarily well and is one of the most powerful end user query engines. So all the things we're talking about here is end user driven. You can build them without writing any code at all. And that's the whole concept. If I went back to my questions to the system and ChatGPT, and it was giving examples of limiting the MCP calls, it would have structured that right down to writing some code to do it. Popdock takes all of that away, so you can produce a query with controls and restrictions and filters and limit that. But the real power comes when you've got access to all of the systems you use. And every customer of yours uses 10, 15, 20 or more systems, guaranteed. And the power of AI is to do things cross-system. So pull some data out of your ERP, analyze that against the data in your support system and see which customers are happy or not. Then take action, create activities in CRM, push that data to another place, build an analysis report or a spreadsheet. But you've got to get access to the secure data in the first place, and Popdock is the easiest and by far the easiest way to do it. you'll see a lot of these tools will come up with their own connections, but then you'll end up with 20 MCP connections, and that gets extremely confused. You'll have 20 security models, and Popdock gives you one single security model to do so. So that's my overview for you of where not MCP, but where eOne and AI collide, and how we can help you interpret your customers' businesses so AI understands it, and you get by far the best results without writing code and without having to hire expensive AI developers. So at that point, I'm going to throw to Chris, who's going to step you through a couple of examples of how this all hangs together and see it in the real world.
All right, thank you, Martin. I'm going to share my screen now. So before I get to that, here's what I want to start with. I want to give you a real world example and just kind of walk through a couple of scenarios and really get you thinking today of what this is, that next step, and what it can potentially do for you and your organization and your customers in the very near future. Okay, so let's start with this scenario. I have a salesperson that got a voicemail, right? I get an email that says, here's the new voicemail, and it's in Spanish. I don't know Spanish. So that's a great opportunity. I might copy the contents of this email, and I want to go translate it. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of Martin was showing you in ChatGPT, I'm going to go to another one of the popular engines out there called Claude. And this one's been gaining a lot of momentum lately. But I'm going to walk you through the scenario that I put inside of here. So I pasted the contents of that, the transcription of the voicemail, all in Spanish. But I did something a little bit different at the top. I said, can you translate this, and can you tell me if this customer exists inside of NetSuite? Now, this is where Martin had showed you before. In the system he was in, had no context whatsoever. But this is where the story starts changing with Popdock, is that we can now, after I run that prompt, it not only translates it into English for me, which is now I know what the problem is, but it starts going, yeah, I did find that customer for you inside of your NetSuite system. Here's some information on it. Here, it did a couple of things. It looked in some of the areas around the sales orders, and then went a little bit deeper into the items that were on those sales orders to see if we had something more specific on the products they had bought. And sure enough, it found out that not only was this something that we have this customer, but it also started highlighting that we've had a few other issues around here that that we've had a bunch of people that have bought this, but we actually now can see that there are some problems with this. Okay, so something beyond just pulling the data from there, it's telling all the orders for that bicycle that was identified in the voicemail. But it told me something interesting. It said, I don't have that number in our system. All of our records are for purchasing, right? So it's not like an individual email or individual name. It actually had an email there. And so then you can go and look further into, okay, let's find everything for that particular record instead. Now, the other thing that I love about AI, right, is it might give me some recommendations. So in this case, because of what we had put in our prompt, we said, let's go, why don't you recommend, looking a little deeper, find if we can find that number on a different contact. Maybe they aren't associated with the company, but they've maybe put a message in before in another system or in the help desk system or something like that. And then again, it also, like I said, it's identified some issues with this, and it's telling us maybe we should take some cautionary look into what's going on. So right from here, this is the next step, right? Is not only did I present some data right inside of the AI tool that I'm using in this case, But the next thing I said, well, okay, that's great. Can you actually now create a ticket for me? And you'll see the next thing it did is it passed in the information that I had up above, and then it said, let's create a brand new Zendesk ticket. Here's a subject. Priority has been high because of what we gathered from the context of the voicemail. And then it puts some extra information inside of here. So at the end of that, if we go and look inside of Zendesk, for example, here's our ticket that I created this morning from that process. And we can see here's the original that came in from the translated portion of that. And then it also puts some internal notes telling us that look into this because we potentially have some additional issues with here. Since I'm inside of Zendesk, I want to show one thing, right? This is the help desk system that I have in this case, that where it created the ticket. It could be a different system. It could be Jira. It could be any number of ticketing type systems out there. But what I have embedded over here is Popdock, and I just want to get you thinking, is I could actually do an AI search right inside of here. So I could make Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT or DeepSeek or Mistral, right? Like any of these engines that we have, I can have it start interacting in here, and I can pass in different context. I could say, hey, let's go look through a bunch of other comments and do a deeper dive into what we have. But I just wanted to show you that you can actually embed AI really with Popdock anywhere that we can embed our widgets. So let me take you inside of Popdock now for a second. And on this first screen, I just wanted to show kind of what Martin had said, and a combination of what I just showed. I showed you a widget embedded inside of a help desk system, but I can define what those prompts are. I can define what data to attach to it. I can determine how detailed I want to be in my look at this. And this one happens to be looking, in this case, at some GP data to do a seasonal detection, right? Like, are we noticing seasonal patterns? And so this is where AI is really good at this type of stuff. But again, the beautiful part is that now we're able to provide the context with data from our company so that it's now meaningful as opposed to just using AI. And that's the part that's really, really powerful. Okay, the last part I really want to highlight inside of here, Martin has mentioned MCP a number of times. This is, again, a powerful tool to start allowing you in a secure, safe way to provide context to your employees, your customers, so they can choose what portions of the data they want to show or make available to their corporate AI subscription. And beyond just, if you look at, most of these are get data, but you'll actually see I have this action, right? This is the action I ran to add a Zendesk ticket. So that's the powerful part, right? Is you can really change it from just looking at data to actually doing something about that data, taking action on it. Let me take you inside of this top one here, the GP one, because I want to show one thing, right? Here's the list of data it's looking at. But what I want to show you is in this response section, I've only made 3 fields available, right? If that's all I need to do the analysis on this, and maybe I don't want to have any type of sensitive information, even potentially leaking, to the AI engine, I can choose exactly what I want. But even further than that, this is what Martin said. How can one tool, how can Popdock lock down this information to the AI? Well, you can see inside of here, I have only made this available to myself and Alicia. So these are the only 2 people that can access this data when they log into the chat solution. So if I don't come back here and show it to you in the real world, I don't think it's real. So if I go inside of inside of Claude, and again, you could do this in ChatGPT, you can do this in Gemini. Some of the other ones are adding MCP servers, they're coming out very, very soon. But I want to show you here is, if I go into this connectors section, like Martin said, you can add 1 million of these MCP servers. So like I said, every company is going to start coming out with a limited set of things. But why limit yourself? Why not use a tool like Popdock to allow all those things to be brought in, and again, do the next things like the actions. And security is a big thing. We've seen some examples where they take that one particular model, and everybody in the company now gets the capability of generating a Zendesk ticket. And so you may not want that to be the case. So I want to show you inside of here. Here are the options that I have made available. So here's the NetSuite stuff. Here's Zendesk tickets. Here's adding the Zendesk ticket, right? So that's the action. And I had a test action here. But what we don't see, right? I had that GP sales transactions one. I made that inactive. And so that does not show about here because it has not been marked as active. And you see, you can also do this in a different way too, right? You can choose to run this one and always ask for permission, which is what I do for demo purposes usually. But you can, if you, again, start getting to a point where you're requesting it a lot and you want to allow, access to it, you can basically allow unsupervised and just say, hey, show me this, show me the transactions, show me the tickets, show me the customers, show me whatever. And it just won't even prompt to ask, I guess, for the security access. It will just know that you can do that. So I know I spent a minute on this screen, but I do think it's really important because the secure access to your data is really what brings us all together. Right now, I think what's happening in a lot of organizations, people are dumping stuff to Excel and they are uploading it to their own personal version of whatever tool that they're using. And as Martin said, there are engines that they say they're not using any of that data to train it, but I think in the age of security and when it's your business data that's on the line, I think that's a really, really critical thing to have as part of that. Okay, I think
that's great, Chris. Yep, that's really good. Just to wrap up on AI quickly for everybody, we made promises to you as partners that we're here to support our GP customers for 10 years and way more. This tool enables all of your GP customers to be AI enabled and in the right way to share that data. Not only GP, but if you're a NetSuite partner or an Intact partner or a Business Central partner, the same concepts applied to all of the ERPs. Now, it's not just ERP, it's every other application that a business uses. We are able to expose it, and if there's one that we can't expose yet, let us know and we will add it into our environment so you can do it. And Popdock answers all of the things that you need to have a secure and controlled AI business sharing environment. So we've set you up, we've been innovating hard, we're going to continue to innovate. We are looking for some beta customers right now to test, some beta partners to take your ideas and run you through a lot more detail of what we're offering and how that works. So if you're interested, talk to your partner manager or contact Chris or contact myself or Katie. We would love to chat with you. And my challenge to you is to take your blinkers off and start reimagining the world for your customers in a world of AI. How do you take the power of AI together with your business data to do things that were absolutely impossible last week, absolutely impossible last year? And we're here to help you do it. And I think it's a really exciting time. And I've been in ERP world for 30 years. I think this is the biggest game changer that I've seen in my entire time. So for us older ERP experts, I'm not saying everybody is, but it is a challenge to get your head around what is possible. It is exciting, and I think together we're positioned to take it to our customers. So thank you, Chris. That's a great thing. I'll let you just finish off your last slide, and we'll hand back to Katie.
Yeah, sounds good. I think, again, just to inspire you to think about this a bit more. There's a ton of use cases that we have, and I think there's probably 10,000 more that you could look at. I mean, it's all kinds of things from working with your ERP, right? Looking for those anomalies that you might find in your supply chain and your inventory data. It maybe could be fishing for fraud. It could be, a deep analysis of cash flow, but that's just ERP, right? What if you're starting to look at, cleaning up data in across systems, the quality of the data that's in there before shipping, making sure that you have the proper addresses, or again, looking at sentiment analysis, but not in just one system, looking at your CRM system, your help desk system, and then maybe looking at social media on the web, right? Those are the kinds of things that you can do to bring this together. I think what we presented today here is this isn't an upgrade, right? This is really a transformation of how you interact as a business with data. And we're moving from just asking what happened, right? That's traditional reporting, or asking for data from a list. We're moving from what happened to what should we do next? What is the action? So with this AI portion that we're presenting at Popdock, I think you can see that every employee becomes a data analyst, if you will, and every conversation starts becoming actionable. And every business decision is now made with context for your company and some extra power from AI. So there you go. I'll leave you with that thought, and I'll pass it on to Katie.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Chris and Martin. I'm really excited about what we're doing with AI. And I know there's a lot of buzz around it, and it's like, okay, what can we trust? What can we do? What's practical? What's going to give us ROI? And I really believe what we're doing is going to help customers see some real impact. So we're excited to work with you on some real use cases that you have in mind with your customers. We've got a lot of smart people on this call here today who are tackling ERP projects in the Business Central space with Microsoft, F&O. They're working with NetSuite. We've got some really good Intact partners on this call. And so we're excited to dive in because we know the real business scenario involves more than just ERP. There's lots of systems involved. There's add-ons to the third-party products involved within the system. So we want to help you practically deliver those solutions and work with the data you need to work with. So now, in terms of connecting data, there's a lot of exciting projects that you have done with the tools that eOne has in market. And I want to highlight a couple of real world scenarios. We're kind of going to punch through a few of them real quickly. Some of them I can say the name of the customer on, some of them I cannot. But all of these scenarios are really exciting. So we'll go through this kind of quickly, but I want to give you a few more ideas. You guys are the experts with your customers. You know your customers' businesses, but there's real challenges in connecting systems. And sometimes in those scenarios, customers need to move the data. Sometimes they need to give access to the data. And so I want to highlight a couple of projects we've done lately. And these projects with all of them, we were working collaboratively with the partner and the customer. So this one I can say the name of. It's from a case study, a customer that ended up doing a case study with us, Creative Materials Corporation, and they supply commercial materials for tile, luxury vinyl, and glass. They're US based, and so some of the challenges they were having, they had used Business Central for their ERP. Salesforce is what their sales team used, and they were struggling to make decisions. Ultimately, that was the real core problems. They couldn't make decisions efficiently based off of the data they had access to, and so they decided to venture on an integration project, and they didn't start with eOne. They started with MuleSoft, which is a Salesforce iPaaS. Salesforce acquired them a few years ago, and it's it built for Salesforce, but it didn't really do well connecting to the Microsoft stack, especially with the type of data this customer needed to work with and make decisions off of. And then the other thing, once we started talking with them, is we learned that their goal out of this project was really to allow their salespeople and accounting people to have access to data. That's really ultimately what they needed to have visibility into it. So I'm not going to show real customer screenshots here, but what I want to show is just how this can look for a customer. So they ultimately used Popdock and Popdock widgets, which let them deliver their integrations in a fraction of the time because they simply needed to set up the connections and the security to who had access to what data in the system, and then enable Popdock widgets in Salesforce and Business Central. So let me just show you a quick example here. This is Salesforce. In Salesforce, we have, we're in an account record. So we can do this in lots of different CRMs. In Microsoft Dynamics 365, we do a lot of this. We've done this in NetSuite. We've done this in Pipedrive. So we're in an account record, and we do this internally in our system. And so when someone gets to the record, the account record, we show the right types of users access the sales transactions for that customer. So this is cool because on the back end in Popdock, this is pretty quick to set up, and we do the hard stuff for you. So it's technically, this ERP tab is a visual force page in Salesforce, but really Popdock just with a click of a button creates the code with the parameter to say, let's filter this down to the account and show just that company or that account's transactions, and you put it in Salesforce. So this allowed the salespeople to see Business Central ERP orders and the history of the transactions right when they open the record. Now, I'm giving you a look on the flip side here. In Business Central, we're on a customer card. This is also a Popdock widget. Looks like native Business Central, but this is a Popdock widget showing some data for pipeline from Salesforce. So they wanted a real look at data in Business Central that was coming from Salesforce. So when you open the record, it shows you real-time data. So that was a fun project. That was using Popdock, and it was fun to convert someone off of MuleSoft because that's a really expensive, really high-end iPaaS product, and we handle the Salesforce and Microsoft ERP integration really well. All right, so this next project, I can't say the customer name in this scenario, but it's a manufacturing company out of Germany, and they use SmartConnect for their integration. Now, with their scenario, what they needed to do is they needed to connect data real time and almost real time for some of the data to between D365 Finance and their EDI solution. And they used it ultimately to import sales orders to D365 Finance, and then also send shipping notifications, notifications to their EDI. So their other option, so the problem was, how do we tackle this? And how do we do this efficiently? Their options were to use a tool or to use custom development. And they were anticipating, and we see this a lot with custom dev, is you end up with bottlenecks around the developers when you need to make changes, when you need to account for more data, when you need to handle errors. It becomes a struggle and very expensive for the customers. SmartConnect was a really good tool, provided them the flexibility to handle this scenario, and then also allowed them to set up all of this with no code. They did use a little bit of scripting in a couple spots, but also allowed them to handle the complex mapping they needed with the D365 Finance entities. So that was a great scenario. So that was SmartConnect. That was where they generated data between the apps. Okay, moving forward. Third scenario here. This was with a company called HB Connections, and we actually did a case study with them. And the HB Connections team, their director of operations, he is such a nice guy. He oversees order management, sales logistics at the company. But what he was struggling with, his problem was that his team was trying to create reports really efficiently, and they needed to bring together data from across the tables in Business Central. The other thing is they needed to use they needed to account for dimensions data with Business Central. So they were really excited, and Daniel feels like he can just move a lot faster with his reporting, they were excited to use Popdock. And so Popdock, again, like Chris talked about earlier, is just a very powerful query engine. It lets him to select in a no-code interface which tables he wants to bring together, and it creates that optimized pull of the data. So they pull reports really quickly, and he can easily create the reports. And that's come down from like, okay, let's go through a request process that takes a couple weeks to, hey, he can create a report in about 10 minutes, and he figures he saves in building the report about 8 hours per in-depth report. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, I got 2 other quick ones here. Okay, Furnitureland South. This is a different type of scenario. This was a NetSuite and Zendesk, but think ERP and help desk with this one. So what this customer was struggling with, and this is a retail customer, people order furniture from them. What they were struggling with, they use Zendesk for their support management ticketing, and they also had an experience on the website where people could chat in. They used NetSuite on the back end for their ERP, but what their challenge is the most common question they got on the support side was, what is the status of my order? What is the status of that furniture that I ordered? And also, they were also asked for copies of the transaction. So what they did is they used SmartConnect to move some of the data they needed to generate between the 2 systems. And then they used Popdock to easily present the data. So when you opened Zendesk, a ticket, like someone sends a ticket in, what it would do right when you open the ticket is show the data from NetSuite that they needed to see to answer those questions. Similar in the chat experience, when people ask questions about their order, it would surface the right data securely. So that was a really fun story too, but both of SmartConnect and Popdock were used. All right, I guess I have 2 more quick scenarios around GP. All right, this is one where we used SmartConnect, and this was a Dynamics GP and e-commerce scenario. The customer was a manufacturer of environmentally safe products, cleaning type products. So with this customer, with their scenario, they needed to integrate with one of their GP companies. They had a tax solution that they used with GP, and that all needed to be connected to Magento. So they actually owned SmartConnect in the past, but they only used it for some GP scenarios. So where they asked for some help was they upgraded SmartConnect, which gave them access to a lot of our API, or all of our best of breed API integration functionality. They used some of our starting points for our Adobe Commerce Magento connection. And then we also delivered some training and helped them get started with their first couple integrations, because they needed to integrate with some of their custom data and wanted to know exactly how they would manage this moving forward. So that's the first GP scenario I wanted to show you. And because we're in football season, I was excited about this one. We have a customer, and I'm not going to say this customer's name because professional football teams are pretty sensitive. Even the National League is sensitive about saying the proper names. But we do work with a number of professional football teams, and this one had selected Coupa for their expense management, and they needed to integrate it with GP. They wanted to automate some of the processes that had been manual for them around their arena and team management expenses that they were working with. So yeah, so this was a fun one. eOne was selected as the integration partner for this one because they wanted to move some of the data. They wanted to report off of some of the data with Popdock. And then they are also considering a move to a different ERP. And so they loved the fact that eOne could be used in their next ERP for those same scenarios. And so SmartConnect was used in this project, and then they also used Popdock. And fun fact about this customer, they even invited the eOne consultant to come watch a game and pay for a ticket. He doesn't live close to them, so he wasn't able to do it, but pretty fun. All right, so that's what we have for you today in terms of scenarios. If you haven't gotten deep with SmartConnect and Popdock yet, or you have new people on your team who are not into the products yet, we would love to help you get access to your demo environments and get you hands-on, get you into training. You can access that extension we talked about earlier that's available both for online and on-premise with Business Central if that's your focus, but lots of cool opportunities and ways to connect data between your apps and really get it connected to your people. Yeah, and we've got some questions here. So we're going to cover questions in just a couple minutes. I'm going to cover a few more things with ways you can connect with us at upcoming trainings and events, and then we'll dive into some of those questions because we've covered a lot of fun things today. All right, so for trainings, it's been a fun first half of the year, first 3/4, 2/3 of the year. But we're getting into fall season and there's a lot of activity coming up. So we want to give you a glimpse of where you can connect with our team. Like really when we are planning our event schedule for in-person especially, we're looking at how can we get our resourcing and our team, the people who are going to help you as partners answer your toughest questions and challenges. So what we've got coming up for training and events, we're going to a number of conferences. We have a couple more live trainings this year. One that is coming up next week. If you are based in Canada or you would like to go to Montreal, I'd encourage you to consider the Integration Roadshow. This is where we're going through the integration platform and helping you understand in a more detailed way, how do you recommend the right tool set, the right functionality for the right project? How do you deliver a compelling demo? How do you ensure you do the things along the way with that sales process to win the deal? So we have our next Integration Roadshow in Montreal. We actually have people in Boston right now doing this. They're going to go to a Boston Red Sox game tonight. So we try to make those fun and engaging and get multiple partners there. We do have a number of conferences coming up, and again, we're going to send people who are ready to talk with you about your most challenging scenarios, and let's work on a plan together to help make sure you're successful. So we'll be at Sweet World in October, early October. Community Summit, we've got so much planned at Community Summit, got a really big team going to that, as well as Directions EMEA. Looking forward to connecting with our global Microsoft partners at those events, and then also with our NetSuite partners. After the conference season, we jump into demo days, and we are collaborating with a number of ISVs in the Microsoft channel for these demo days, and looking at some for some of the other ERP channels as well. The ones we have coming up before the end of the year are a demo days session for Business Central, F&O, and then we're doing a GP to D365 migration workshop. And this is not just eOne. This is like a number of ISVs that are demoing solutions for those scenarios, and we're looking to ensure customers can take advantage of the best of breed tools for their ERP. So we have demo days coming up. And then we also have a pretty comprehensive webinar schedule. So we have a number of them scheduled around, especially this fall, we've got a number of webinars for Oracle as well, Oracle NetSuite, as well as the D365 space. So this is a sample of a few of them. And then we also are, DataBlend also has a few webinars. This is one of them that's coming up this month that focuses on getting the most out of your data integration platform. So there's a lot of good content coming up. And DataBlend, they joined the eOne team earlier this year in Q2. So we've got our team has just grown in terms of the number of experts that you can work with. So they focus a lot in Sage Intacct, Workday, and have really expanded the number of channels that we can tackle in terms of integration projects. So, all right, that concludes the content that we were going to focus on today. We do have some questions that have come up. Some of them are available about some of the things we talked about later in the call, and some of them are about AI. I want to jump back to some of the AI questions real quick, and then we'll make sure we're only going to take like 1 or 2 minutes because I want to wrap up on time here. Chris Dew, I have a question for you. When we're talking about AI, how does Popdock make connecting to your data secure? Like, what is it within Popdock that makes it secure to connect to your app data?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that the configuration of that MCP server inside of the engine, whether it be, like I said, Claude, Gemini, or ChatGPT, it basically, the user needs to log in. So each person, we know who they are because it maps back to their Popdock login. And because we have that, we have the whole security model that says which resources they get access to, which lists, which fields, which actions. So that's why it's so secure when you use the Popdock MCP server.
Awesome. And you talked a little bit about this, but can you use Popdock's connections with free versions of AI, or what do you recommend in terms of when you're looking at your AI platform, free or a paid plan, or what do we need to consider?
There's a couple of good questions there. First of all, a lot of them you can't even hook into an MCP server without purchasing, a more of a corporate plan or the add-on plan. So that's kind of a first barrier to having that be an issue. The second thing, though, oh sorry, what was I lost my train of thought there.
I think we were talking about free versus paid plans.
Okay, yeah. So again, and the recommendation is to not use the free plans, because again, sometimes there's different restrictions on what they say they could potentially use the data for. So most of the paid ones, once you pay for them, then they have very specific things saying that your information won't be used at all. So that's probably my cautionary tale on that one is you want corporate control over it. So usually you're going to set up a corporate account for the people that will be using that. And again, then you're going to probably be paying for it.
That makes sense. Yep.
I think just jumping in, Katie, an important note there is obviously we identify who's using those corporate accounts. That person needs to have a corresponding match in Popdock, so they can. Now we don't charge for extra users, so that's fine for you. But it's a match, so we know who's who and we know what access they have access to. So if they ask for a question that they're not entitled to get the answer to, they get shut down and say, hey, sorry, I can't connect to that data. Just like you saw when I did my example earlier, I don't know about that data, can't connect. So it becomes very secure. Obviously, the things to note is, as I said, it's not a completely secure workspace in a chat environment. If you walk away from your laptop, people will have access. It remembers your chats. If your laptop's open, somebody could come and click on those things. So obviously, you've got to have a corporate policy around that and be secure. One of the other things we do with Popdock is we can generate AI lists. So a completely custom list of data or a query that's based upon some functions in AI. One of those functions, and it's one of the things that ChatGPT told me to do when I was talking to it about connecting to business data, is it says often obscure the data you're pushing in there. So, instead of displaying customer names in something you push in, you might call them custom A or customer B, and you could use Popdock and AI together to obscure the data, redact it basically, so it's never displayed to AI. So it's a really good use of Popdock and AI together, and that is to format the data in a way that's acceptable to push up into your AI environment. So yeah, you're using Popdock to get the data, then massage the data into a format that you're okay sharing in that environment. So.
Yeah, I think those are all good points, and yeah, absolutely. Say, there's one more question. I'm just going to answer this real quickly and we'll jump off, but thank you so much, everybody. The last question we had here was, will this be available as a recording? And we are going to send this out to you after the call. Really appreciate all the questions coming in here, but we're going to follow up one by one with everybody afterwards, just in light of time. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. We look forward to partnering with you to connect to more types of apps and to connect to securely to AI. And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to our sales team, sales@eOneSolutions.com. We'll get you to the right person. If we're not the right people to answer it, we'll get you to the deeper technical people too. All right.
And for everybody on the call, most of you know me. If you don't, feel free to reach out and introduce yourself. But I want to hear from you. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear what you're planning to do with AI. I want to hear what your customers are looking at, we want to work with you on some beta customers. So if you want to come talk to us and get involved, please reach out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk to you soon.